Good morning. Hope you are doing well this Sunday morning. The sun is not even out yet where I am here in Texas, but if you've been following along, we're going through a journey and I'm just reading a little bit every day from a book I wrote in the 1990s called Where is the Hope? As I mentioned throughout this series so far, we live in a world and a time where people need hope. And it's not found in the places we think would give us hope, but it is found in the one who is hope. And today we're going to journey through chapter 7, and it is called Nobody Knew. Yesterday I just mentioned I wasn't sure if I remembered what this chapter was about. I looked at it this morning, and the title is actually inspired by a song. Another influence, musical influence of mine in the 1990s was Michael W. Smith, and he had a song called Nobody Knew. And I'm actually going to quote that in the chapter. So let's just dive in and read chapter 7 as read by the author. Yes. Okay, here we go. For most people, it was an ordinary day. It was almost mundane. It was almost as expected. Moms and dads kept to their normal routines, cleaning, working, and providing for the family. The kids played in the dusty streets of Jerusalem. To them, it was just another day. But as it turned out, this day was far from an ordinary day. You see, this particular Friday turned out to be the reference point for all of history. Everything that happened up to this point was leading to this day, and now everything that has happened since points back to this event. Yet nobody really knew the significance or the reality of this day. Not the religious, not the disciples, not even Satan. The religious folks were the ones who demanded he be crucified. The disciples didn't really even understand. Remember what Peter said when Jesus was preparing them for this day? Never, Lord. This shall never happen to you. Satan didn't even know. Satan didn't understand the secret wisdom of God, for if he had, and Paul says this in 1 Corinthians 2 7 and 8, if he had, he would not have crucified the Lord of glory. And here's that quote from Michael W. Smith and that song. And by the way, just Google it if you're not familiar and watch the video. If I remember correctly, it was a pretty cool video, pretty interesting video. Here's what he says. Nobody knew his secret ambition was to give his life away. All of history hinges on that day and time. Although it seemed to be just an ordinary day at first glance, it was without a doubt the most extraordinary day ever, in what was seemingly the defeat of good to the hands of evil. It seemed like Satan had won, that Christ was defeated. But once again, nobody knew what was going to happen. Not his friends, not the disciples, not the religious, not even Satan. Remember the ladies who went to the tomb to anoint Jesus' body? What they saw was not what they expected. By the way, they were going to anoint a body. That's what they were expecting. But the stone had been rolled away. He was alive. There was no body. Can you picture the dejected disciples sitting in a room with the doors locked for fear of the Jews? They must have been depressed, lonely, and confused. But then Jesus, the resurrected Christ, walked through the walls and said, "Peace be with you." How about those who were present on the day of Pentecost in Acts chapter 2, the religious? How do you think they felt as Peter reminded them how they helped crucify the Son of God? I imagine their confused hearts were flooded with emotions as Peter said, "But God raised him from the dead, freeing him from the agony of death, because it was impossible for death to keep its hold on him." And Satan, he didn't have a clue. He thought he had won. Yet Paul reminded him, as he reminds us, where, O death, is your victory? Where, O death, is your sting? But thanks be to God, he gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. Nobody knew of this secret ambition. It started out just like any other day, yet it turned out to be a monumental event that nobody can now forget. So I've got to ask you, what are you going to do with that day? With the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus? Of all the things people would like to do with it, the one thing no one can do is ignore it. You can't forget it, and you can't remain neutral about it. You've got to make a choice. Choose pleasing Christ over pleasing Satan. Many people do not want the responsibility of making that choice. They want to remain neutral. One such person was Pilate, the Roman ruler who was left with the responsibility of sentencing Christ to death or letting him go. 3 times Pilate tried to let Jesus go, but the shouts of the crowd prevailed, and he caved in to their demands. Tradition tells us that Pilate spent the last years of his life up in the mountains of Switzerland, washing his hands constantly. When anyone asked him, "What are you doing?" he said, "I'm trying to wash the blood stain of Jesus Christ off my hands." Through all eternity, Pilate will try to wash the blood stain off, but he will never be able to do it. Nobody knew his secret ambition. But in retrospect, we know it was on this day, we know it was on that day that his choice was firmly planted in bedrock as he died for us. So I beg you to choose Christ over Satan. Or may I get more specific? I beg you to choose heaven over hell. What an amazing reminder of a God in his incredible love. And that Jesus, the death, burial, and resurrection, was the event that changed everything. But yet nobody knew. Because we have a God who is full of surprises. And he will do anything to rescue you. I hope that reading was helpful to someone, and I just pray that you have an amazing day. Tomorrow, chapter 8, it's a very short chapter. I must have been in a hurry back in the 90s when I wrote this one, but it's simply called The Gift, and I'll tell more about that tomorrow. Have a great day.